In the meantime, we're hi everybody. Whoa, that's weird. Hi. But hi, we're gonna start with things just a few minutes here. Uh, if we can't, if whatever something happens, network problems go down, whatever, probably not gonna stop the show. We're probably not gonna be able to troubleshoot it. It sounds like a lot of Twitch. Oh, here we go. Ingest servers. Ingest servers are online, but then the web servers are. I don't know. I can't solve it if Twitch is busted. So stiff upper lip, everybody. Where is my chat thing? Where's the chat room? Oh, there we go. Hey, there we are. So we're gonna start in a few minutes. Let me give Juice a call. Let me call the Juice Man. The Juice Man. AKA Justin Robert Young. Here he is. Hello.
Yo.
Brian is right outside the door, consoling Callie. Here he comes. Ladies and gentlemen. Brian Brushwood.
Ahoy!
There it is.
I'm really enjoying just saying ahoy in all social situations as my default greeting to everyone.
It's free, isn't it? Like it's very collegial.
Yeah, well, but also kind of wonky. That implies that hey, I'm not a traditional character.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is a little bit different. We can have a little fun.
I almost turned it up, and then I get it to his level.
Yeah. I think I figured out to click 8 times. Hey, are you doing that dungeon running? Are you running them dungeons?
Well, it's is it called that? But I'm doing the solo stuff, yeah, for the new expansion, and it's pretty fun. I really like it.
I like having 5 curious character classes to play with that don't break the main game, but make for fun experiences.
Yeah, no, I and I like the idea that I guess that they just do 10 wins for each class. Gets you a thing.
I have yet to get 1 win, and I don't think it took me this long on the previous dungeon runs.
No, it's just each level.
Oh,
So
got
they
it.
have
No, yeah,
bosses.
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I also got randomly assigned the quest to get 3. I know it sets you up to grind through all the character classes.
Yeah.
But one of my random picks is defeat 3 bosses. So I have yet to defeat 1 boss.
Yeah, I have not. I didn't win any on the other one either though. So like
You didn't win any? I got all except for Priest, and I kid you not, I spent an entire month off the ladder. I am missing a card back because I only tried
just to beat that dungeon run.
all Hearthstone was to me was that game where I almost defeat a boss with the Priest for an entire month.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, you're coming a little. Oh, there he is. Oh, back a little bit.
No, I know. It's a little fuzzy. How about that? Is that good?
That's pretty good.
Seems better.
Can you also turn yourself up a little bit, Justin?
Yeah, buddy.
Just a little bit.
Somebody named Reptile007 just sent me a message asking, how are you liking the new Hearthstone expansion? I was like, funny you should ask.
Oh.
Let me offer you a plug. Okay, talking weird things
That's right.
with at Justin R. Young
Mm-hmm.
and at Brycast
Hi.
at. Do you put the HTTP? I guess it doesn't matter. It shortens it anyway.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv/Night
Yes. It seemed like there was maybe a little hiccup in Twitch's video delivery service right now. So if you're having issues, I recommend
I feel bad
refreshing.
for you, son.
Refresh before you let us know that there's an issue, because when I see S-word, everything's broken, then I think, oh man, is that us? I need to stop and figure it out. Tweet. But we got a packed show today.
Right
Got
on.
a lot of different things, some interesting stuff. We're gonna do kind of a little video breakdown at the end. So if we have time for it. But I think
that'll be great.
A fun, interesting sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm not on DTNS, so I'm good to go for After Things.
Great. And we have an After Things letter. So there we go.
Nice.
Everybody feeling cooked? Everybody all warmed up? Done your vocal exercises?
Am I?
Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather.
My vocal is shit, but I'll be damned if I didn't do a 600-pound leg press today.
600. Wow.
Yeah, 600.
Nice.
Congrats.
I got meaty man thighs. Although that's
Nice.
wait, is that generous? That's generous.
Yeah,
Ladies can have big thighs too,
They can.
but they're usually not proud of them.
I know. Well, or meaty, rarely a positive attribute that is tossed around.
So is it
even large women's sexy thighs. Very rarely is it. Oh, look at those meaty thighs.
But so is it okay to say meaty man thighs then, or
I would think so.
yeah,
I mean, whatever.
for another 20 minutes? we still got time.
Brian, it's all a moving target. Life's a moving target.
Damn straight.
Meaty thighs find a way.
They overcome the lysine dependency.
They do move.
That's a deep cut to the book of Jurassic Park, people.
There we go. All right, we're gonna start the Weird Things show right now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. Welcome back. It's April 30th, 2018. I'm Bryce Castillo, filling in for Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, beautiful people.
Fresh
It's so
from
good
Canada.
Man, I'll tell you what, I had a hell of an adventure, a long trip back home, but I made it back just in time to catch that Avengers movie.
And Justin Robert
I haven't
Young.
heard of it.
You haven't heard of it?
No. I'm sorry. I don't watch TV.
TV.
It's my favorite miniseries. Thanks for joining us again, guys. We've got some weird news stories here. I want everybody to look around them, just double check that you're all fine. Make sure you don't have any cricks in your necks.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, like, look to your left, look to your right.
No.
One of those people will be dead before this episode is over.
No, I want you guys to just make sure you're all your fingers and toes are here. Make sure you don't have any whiplash, because our galaxy was possibly in a collision.
Are we gonna have a lawsuit against another galaxy? we have delayed effects. I would like to formally sue Andromeda. Who did we run into? Wait, Andromeda's set for a head-on next, right?
Well, we don't quite know. So, if you don't know, on Wednesday, the European Space Agency's Gaia mission finally sent back a ton of data. It came with new information about 1.7 billion stars in the Milky Way, including 1.3 billion stars' apparent motion in the sky and actual velocities for over 7 million stars. This is from Gizmodo.com. And one of the possible findings from all of this data, because it's a lot of data, it hasn't all been reviewed.
Is this how scientists talk? They get in there. They're like, presenting his paper right now is Professor Fillard B. Douchemore. He's like, all right, guys, I got a thesis. And I know you guys are going to be all like, there's no evidence, air quotes, for it.
Oh, I bet you nerds can't wait to peer review everything. Roll the dice.
But one of the possible findings out of this was that our galaxy collided with a gravitational force a few 100 million years ago, relatively recently.
So if it's big enough that we see the effects on our galaxy, you can't just say like, oh, it was an errant black hole or a little chunk of the dark matter passed through us. Like this is a big enough effect that it had to be like another galaxy.
It could possibly be another galaxy. The quote here from Teresa Antoya from the Universitat de Barcelona in Spain says, quote, "We have here provided the clearest evidence that our galaxy disk has suffered from perturbations, bringing it to an out of equilibrium state, which may well be due to an interaction with an external satellite galaxy."
So this sounds like a near miss. Your Honor, On behalf of Galaxy M27, I think the evidence will show that the Milky Way galaxy is still has 6 spiral arms, doesn't it? It's still spinning and winning. Who's to say? You're telling me that this was a head-on collision? Point to the damage, Your Honor. Because you're on the trial in this scenario.
Yeah. Gotcha. The set falls apart. Finally, we trapped you. Your Honor, or should I say Steve?
Astronomer Stacy McCaw from the Case Western Reserve University told Gizmodo, quote, "This work shows that the stellar disk of the Milky Way is a dynamically active place where spiral arms and the galactic bar leave their marks on the orbits of stars like ripples in a pond that has perhaps recently felt the splash of a small stone in the form of a merging dwarf galaxy."
So, if I'm reading between the lines with my non-scientific brain, it sounds like maybe we were in a near miss and that left ripples in our galaxy that are being detected.
Yeah, that's possible. Or that we could be on a large scale moved because of an effect of like this dwarf galaxy merging that McCaw references here. Not necessarily that we hit something, but and maybe a near miss is a good term for it, in that we were close enough that it kind of moved everything a little bit.
So
swayed a little bit.
Whenever we talk about these fundamental questions of the nature of the universe, Justin, it triggers this question of, am I going to live? We all have these fundamental questions, and many of them have been answered in the last 200, 300 years. Dinosaurs, are they real or what?
Sure.
Carbon dating has unlocked a whole bunch of fundamental questions and so on.
The nature of Jesus Christ. Go ahead.
Correct. Although they did carbon date the Shroud of Turin. And, that's a whole interesting story. But here's my
Turns
question.
out it was made in 1981.
Actually, yeah, no, it was a hoax made in the Middle Ages, and there's a great program, I forget where they show how they did it. But so here's my question to you. I often think, I hope I live long enough for a lot more fundamental questions to be answered.
Okay.
And lately, I'm now wondering, in a world of simulations and VR and of AIs processing data and coming up with some kind of answers that make sense to stuff, I wonder if I just want to live long enough for a really good answer that makes me think. It doesn't even have to be the right answer. Does that make sense? Like, I can't wait for the AI simulations of like, okay, this is given all the data, this is a scenario that actually works, and this is how the many worlds physics model can work and all that stuff. I just want to be like, yeah, that makes sense. But I suppose everybody wanted that forever.
Yeah, I mean, science is a constantly molting beast, right? It's finding new ways that we're wrong over and over again.
Sure.
Each time closer and closer to the real answer.
Yeah.
And also closer and closer to how we can understand the real answer. That's our nature of facts are only as good as we can comprehend. And history and science have shown that if you go back even 200 years, the way that we fundamentally understand things are kind of laughable to how we understand them now. So I've said, for the record, I have really no plan on dying. So like, I do look forward to looking through infinity, how we better understand everything.
Either that or oversleeping, quote unquote, oversleeping through the solution.
Yeah. At some point I'll wake up and people will be like, oh, here's the nature of the universe. And I'll be like, oh, sweet. Who's got coffee?
Yeah.
Everyone knows this. I missed it. Everyone knows it.
I like this idea of thinking of death as just napping through the rest of history. You're like, oh man, no, I was having a great time and I laid down to take a nap. I forgot to wake up. What a bummer, man.
Wait, where are you having this conversation?
Yeah,
that's the part I haven't figured out.
Oh, okay.
But I can imagine that
Sure.
upon waking up in a new reality or as a simulation.
Though I think it would probably be, I guess, if time travel occurred, if you were able to travel through time. I mean, this is weird. Travel forward through time, which we all do constantly. Right? But if you were to suddenly jump 100 years in the future, you would have a similar feeling of like, well, what's changed? I need to know the fundamental things about life that are so different that I
And of course,
couldn't
very
comprehend.
little,
Yeah.
very little in the last 2,000 years. I mean, there's a reason so many of the lessons of the Bible are relevant today because life's pretty much the same. you got women's running off with other men's. You got
sure.
guys killing other guys. I mean,
Yeah, you're always coveting your neighbor's ass.
exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, so that's a little bit of a space update. Everybody, just make sure you swap insurance numbers just in case you feel something a week
Call
from
Saul Starman if you need representation. If you've been injured in an intergalactic collision.
Have you or somebody you know had a dwarf galaxy run into your galaxy? Please call me, Saul Starman.
Oh, Saul Starman, he knows all the stars. Call 1-877 ouch.
Call back to an album we haven't released.
now. Oh God, that's right. All right, we have another story here. We've talked a lot about on this show the power of artificial intelligence and quote unquote fake news. It's fake news.
Sure.
I actually, in researching for one of the stories that we're going to talk about a little bit later today, I came across, I don't know if you guys remember, probably within the past year or two, there was this very small an announcement sort of thing that more and more places would start using AI and machines to write articles.
Oh, that's right. For example, I know in sports that vast majority of auto-updated, up-to-the-minute stuff, they were basically taking the data feed, indicating who scored what point or whatever.
And
it
just
would
plugging it in.
Yeah, and there's a bank of synonyms, and a robot would say, like, Saul Starman, in a surprise, joining the NFL through a touchdown pass. And,
Sure,
like you don't need to pay a minimum wage copy editor for any of that.
Right. And so I in one of the stories that we'll talk about later, I kept finding a lot of stories that were very clearly like pieced together by a machine. They would like bold key things that it thought were keywords, but very much were not keywords, like technology. And it's like, well, yeah, it's a tech story. Well, technology is not the big word. And I think this kind of maybe is a little hand in hand with the idea of fake news or falsified news stories, things that are promoting urban legends or outright lies, things that did not happen. And Facebook is one of the largest, I don't know that you would call them a publisher of news. They're certainly an aggregate when it comes to news reporting. But Facebook has trouble telling people, hey, this link is not real, or this is a hoax. There was at some point where The Onion, if you posted a link to The Onion, it would have a thing on Facebook that said, this article is satirical. Because people would just look at the articles and think, oh my gosh, Obama put his fingers in whose soup?
Yeah.
Man, if we could spend the next 40 minutes just looking at that article again, I would.
Moving on. I'm shocked that you even went there, Bryce. No, this is a black hole for another 20 minutes.
So Facebook announced at let me get the article at the Fighting Abuse at Scale event in San Francisco on Friday that it would be shrinking fake news stories.
Shrinking? Okay.
Shrinking them.
Shrinking
Oh,
them.
like making them physically smaller?
It would visibly make them smaller in a report.
Or I guess you could also make them dimmer or some kind of visual cue that inherently says, trust this less, or you'll have to work harder to read it.
And I've said this since they started doing this on Daily Tech News Show, that this is a hell portal, #portal to hell, to try to be a referee for what is real and what is fake. And Facebook has found themselves in a very, very tricky position in that they now have all these questions of how they've affected reality, since we now have a situation that was supposed to go one way and then went another in the 2016 election. And a lot of people are very upset about it and want to find out why that happened. And part of what sprung out of that was fake news. But we still haven't really, at least Facebook hasn't come out and said, this is what fake news is. Where I think initially the idea was, all right, there were these kids in Macedonia that were, this is real, that were creating just random jumbles of headlines. So like Hillary Clinton caught shoplifting, has seizure on way to the police station. And it would be at like usa.patriot.eagle, right? And you would click on it.
USA Patriot. That eagle is fake?
.eagle is my favorite top-level domain.
And so the site was literally just there with a bunch of gibberish on it to make you to get the random clicks on links, to generate money. And so those links, I think you can very easily identify. All right, there is not a shred of truth in any of this. But even then, you now move on to the more sophisticated version where you're just writing outrageous opinions. Yeah. And that is where I think when you are deciding to play the referee, you now get to the question of, all right, well, if people want to read this, should we play referee against it? Or how do we label it? And when the line is this truth or not, then, boy, you are entering into a long, complicated conversation that nobody's here for a nuanced version of, because it's Facebook and everyone just wants to yell at their aunt.
So two things. Number one, hearing about the auto-generated nonsense articles. I posted this, I forgot somewhere.
I think on Twitter?
Yeah.
Or no, it was in Slack.
It was in Slack. Internally, your and my name showed up because I have a Google News alert, and when something pops up in the news, it shows up. This is a totally legitimate article in the Crime Scene Journal discussion group with the headline, "Take Pleasure in the Garden, Explicit," by Brian Brushwood and Justin Robert Young on Amazon Music.
Now, this is in the cold cases section, of course, published April 17 by Zachariah Sen-Shore 10.
An outstanding Elizabethan household with acclaimed gardens. 3 traditional, like, we're not mentioned again in the entire computer-generated article.
Well, that's not even the name, right? Like, it's like slightly different.
It's a mistranslation or an intentional reworking of it, of enjoy the garden.
Well, and that's the sort of thing where, this article that I referenced earlier, that might have been, and I don't know that was trying to like push, this service, really, this thing, but it also could have just been an SEO thing, which is a very common thing, to make fake blogs that all link around to each other so that Google knows that all of these blogs have links and influence and are correct, quote unquote, to boost SEO. So
now, just so I can make sure that these guys get a good talking to, what's their phone number again?
Google?
No, the SEO companies that will, because I'm gonna really let them have it.
I believe it's 1-800 literally any country on earth that I don't want to mention that might be offensive. But it's a weird thing. Here's how the Facebook system works: is that it will use machine learning algorithms to scan an article when someone posts a link to an article for signs of false information. If it senses that a story may be fake, the system sends it to a third-party fact checker to look into the validity of the article.
So here's the important part. I think I suspect Facebook is making a mistake by making themselves the arbiter of what is and is not true. I would rather see a version where you subscribe to PolitiFact or whatever, like I trust these guys, they do their homework or whatever. The problem with that is, how long do we get until the fractal resets itself and it's like, oh, well, I'm subscribed to crazy Red State hijacker news, and they tell me all of your info is fake, and like other guys tell me your info is fake.
You want to know what though? That's fine, because we're like that anyway. Like that's just us getting back to zero and not, having Facebook be looked at as super damaging, because you can just say, hey, look, here are our available filters, and we are going to maybe make some, even I think you're right, like have it be something that you could buy, like, hey, a $3 filter that supports PolitiFact or supports, the question then becomes, all right, so when InfoWars says we're making our filters that basically says all of these George Soros run mainstream media outlets are untrustworthy, then do you sell that, or do you allow them to do that? Because my argument would be, sure, like, let people filter things the way that they want, because they're already getting filtered. I mean, like, this is already happening. You're already creating these echo chambers, and at the very least you can say consensus this is the filter that people enjoy the most,
You know, you're right.
find or have downloaded the
But
most.
I worry about it less when I think about it as a stepping stone to some kind of consensus, or at least having some kind of easy way for like if a friend posts something that, let's say you're subscribed to, I don't know, it gets so nasty and gnarled.
But is there a reason Facebook shouldn't do this? I mean,
well,
Facebook is the platform holder. They
Sure.
ostensibly don't want to send this out to some other party to determine this filtering stuff.
No. I think you can do it internally. Right now, they've partnered with like Snopes and PolitiFact to initially, in one of the many attempts to skin the cat that they've done with this, one of them was to go to trusted and reputable sources to officially, through Facebook, label something as disputed. Right.
See, and I think I would like it. I think they can get away with this if, you mouse over something and all of a sudden a pop-up gives you like 7 different major sites recognizable. Snopes says 83% accurate. PolitiFact says, 74% accurate, or maybe has individual comments on there.
Because my feeling with I think the idea of having individual filters and some sort of web injection whatever product is a fine idea and is a good democratization of the information. But there are so many people who are just into the Facebook ecosystem, especially outside of the U.S.
That as a first step, like literally anybody step in and do this. Then
Right.
let's get mad that they're biased and then fraction off into individual,
right.
favorite providers.
Because there's
Sorry, go ahead.
because there's a if you make the barrier to get into this too high, the needle won't move for a huge swath of people. They're either they can't afford a filter, they don't have the right browser and hardware, this, that, or the other thing. But at least as something that is trying to be, hey, we're doing this and we're trying to do it for everyone, so you don't have to think about it. I at least understand it from an ease of use standpoint.
Yeah.
By the way, Tom Merritt of Daily Tech News Show points out that initial list was, and I don't have it in front of me anymore.
ABC News, the Associated Press, factcheck.org, PolitiFact, and Snopes, and the Weekly Standard.
And one article that I saw was also urbanlegend.com or something like that, an urban legend website.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the actual list or suggestions, but either way, I know that.
No, I'm pretty sure that that was the list that initially that Facebook used to determine whether things were disputed or not.
I'm okay with that. Because I could see you could make a case that one's more tilted one way or the other, but I think that's a good list right there.
Well, and this is all. I think solving this is a very important issue because of the second story that we have here. This was published March 8th in Gizmodo. There's a large study that attempted to understand the virality of real and fake information. And the very short, condensed version is that, quote, just know the overall study found that false stories spread farther, faster, deeper, and more broadly than true stories. In that, it's tough to quite break this down even more than that.
Can I make a stab at, without even reading the article,
Sure.
make a hypothesis about it, and you can tell me if it seems to resonate with
Okay.
it? This is in advertising. People have a tendency, they talk about benefits versus features. The feature is that it has a reclining headrest on this truck. The feature is that you can go into your day better rested with a more comfortable ride. And the one, factually, they're identical, but one is more feeling based or whatever. And I think fake news caters to the feeling side of things. In advertising circles, it's like, don't make the mistake of saying features when what you want to express is the benefit to the consumer, whereas fake news is pure benefit to the consumer. You want to feel right? Click this.
Yeah.
Ooh, doesn't that feel good? Doesn't matter if it's true or not. Felt good. Whereas, authentic, well-vetted media is features and not benefits.
Yes, and I think we're increasingly seeing that traditional media leans more toward confirmation bias than it really ever has. And not to say that the reporting is wrong or bad, It is just that that's where the money is, you know, and on some levels it kind of always has been. But if anything, we're getting into a very weird, although I would say hopefully when we're on the other end of this wormhole, we will say that it is healthy situation where media is so democratized and people are scrambling so hard to find out where the life rafts are, that hopefully we will develop better habits coming out of it. But right now we're just in a very awkward adolescence where everything is based on, do you feel good after reading this? And to say fake news, that fake news spreads further is kind of weird, because to me, salacious news spreads the furthest, because we are pattern recognizing creatures, and anything headline, pattern continues, cool. My brain has already assumed that pattern continues. Headline, pattern shattered, new pattern emerges. Immediately we need to go find the information on that. And so whether it's a misleading headline, whether it's a reporter deliberately falling into a narrative that is being laid out by a source or multiple sources, like, this is what creates our confirmation biases without us necessarily having to be like, meh, like mustache twirling, like I'll shape all their opinions to my will. It's not that. It's very understandable, and ultimately that's why it drives clicks, because we want to be like, we want to see, we always want to read about the unpredictable, and more so we want to read about the unpredictable that confirms that we were right when we were suspecting that it was going to be unpredictable.
So two things in this study that I mentioned, they analyzed user comments on various news articles, both what they're called false stories and true stories, and found that false stories inspire fear, disgust, and surprise, while true stories inspired anticipation, sadness, joy, and trust. Above all, surprise was the biggest reaction to false news, which led one of the researchers to believe that fake news has more to do with human nature and its attraction to novelty than anything else.
That sounds consistent with everything we've said so far, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think Justin, you tapped into something. It really is a fundamental primal, I guess, a primate instinct. We're attracted to gossip because gossip was fundamentally important for survival. You know, if you're familiar with Dunbar's number, the idea that our brains are evolved to about process 150 tribe members, everyone else is the other. That's the way. That's the reason. If I mention, you know, Mongolia, you think of one person to represent that entire country, because you can't handle the overwhelming thought of so many different people. But in that 150 tribe of humanity, it's very important to know if person who is a member of your tribe is cheating on other person's monkey or whatever. And so likewise, I think that's the fundamental.
Paws off my monkey.
Well, because that lets you know whether or not you can transact with that ape or trust him to be a good faith negotiator in the future.
Yeah.
Sure. Look, I got into journalism because I liked gossip, because I liked being the first person to tell somebody something. That's what journalism is. To me, at its very, very core, is understanding your reality and processing it and having a zeal to let other people know. And then from that zeal, from that primal kind of like, oh, I need to know who's dating who or what they said about X, you learn that the best way to do it is by these kind of journalistic principles of finding out and corroborating facts and figuring out how to write it or say it. But at the end of the day, look, we just want to know, all of us universally want to know what our reality is and how we can best operate within it. Mm-hmm. And that is dependent on us not knowing what's real, but knowing what is unreal, or where we can, where we are mistaken so we can correct. Because we all kind of assume that if we are led down a path that we know everything, then we are going to be caught unaware, and we are going to be, in some way affected detrimentally. And that's why, again, it is the pattern breakers that are the most salacious.
And on top of all of this is a University of Michigan study that found out that people who believed, who they said had a belief superiority personality, who believed that their viewpoints were superior, tend to be less informed than those who self-identify as someone who is more humble. So
That's also true, if I'm remembering correctly, in studies where people are made artificial mayors of fictitious towns, and they're psychologically evaluated beforehand. Whether if they have a core set of beliefs and they go in with predispositions, they tend to mismanage the town and it spirals out of control. Whereas those who come in with like, okay, I'm just going to really look at all the data. I'm going to make small moves and see the effects and just respond to whatever it is, because my goal is to get these town imaginary numbers really high. And so those who come in, with a framework that they believe is right tend to do poorly.
Yet, a couple of findings from the study. Belief superior people were significantly more likely than their modest peers to choose information that supported their beliefs. Furthermore, they were aware that they were seeking out biased information. When researchers asked them what type of articles they had chosen, they readily admitted their bias for articles that supported their own beliefs. So this is all one very big pile. This is a very tough sort of problem, but I think it's worthy to find a solution for.
Well, and this does sound like a step in the Facebook thing sounds like a step in some kind of right direction or righter direction than where we are right now.
Yeah.
I would say Facebook is taking a lot of stabs in the dark, and unfortunately, I think the problem is that we are looking for Facebook to solve this problem when I don't think it's necessarily in their capability to do it, and I don't know if they're really looking at it in any other way than our face is on fire and we're desperately looking for something to put it out. Like, that's all they care about, is real to stop talking about fake news. And so I don't really think that they're trying to solve it. I think that they're trying to get people to stop yelling at them, and that they are doing whatever they need to do.
They're not trying to cure the cancer. They're trying to mitigate it and be like, would you just get back to the money factory rolling?
Or literally, they're just saying, stop telling us we have cancer and stop telling us that we're giving you cancer because you're on our platform. Like, literally, whatever we can do to stop this argument, which is why, ultimately, here's why I know that this is a PR-based thing. If this were just an algorithm thing, Facebook wouldn't be talking about it. They would just be doing it. Facebook does a million different things to make your experience better and richer based on the data that they get of your experience. And they have pioneered a lot of stuff because of it.
Yeah.
They don't put out a press release because they figured out how to do autoplay videos in a way that wouldn't ruin your browser and wouldn't make your app run like a pile of poop.
Right. Because they're muted, and that was an internal decision that they A/B tested and came out one way or the other. You're right. This is totally political. This is look at us doing the thing that you seem to indicate you would like us to say we're doing.
Yeah.
Also, I might be wrong, and they might have put out a press release on the autoplay. But like, my point is that these things resonate on a level because they know they are going to resonate on a level, and they know that the hot light is on them, because when Zuckerberg goes and sits on his butt donut in front of Congress and has to eat a pile of poop from every senator and congressman, this is the kind of stuff that he needs to talk about because it's what people care about. And every second that it's talked about, Facebook hates it. It is bringing people a lesser idea of that being on this platform is good for me, and it is making advertisers more nervous about, well, I don't know, should we increase our Facebook budget by 10% or 50%? Well, let's hedge our bets a little bit, going into it. And that's all that they care about, is literally just be on our platform so we can have the widest available demographic map so we can sell the best ads. And where I think we need to solve this is a more fundamental thing, and that's what I think that we're just in an awkward adolescence on, of what is journalism? How do we feed information to each other at a point where the newspapers are all newsrooms and every blog has the ability to be the best newsroom in the world? Who do we reward? Who do we punish? How do we look at these things as valuable to us? And it's why I've always, as somebody who came from journalism, hate the like stories of the mythic, warrior Christs called journalists who sort fact from fiction to us.
The fourth estate, our most important United States resource.
Exactly. It's like, look, I'm always going to cape up for journalists. I love it. It's half my friends are journalists, but they're humans. and we need to, like, specifically in a world now where everything is trackable and we have facts for everything, which means everything is both simultaneously true and untrue because you can distort facts to create any reality that you want. We need to understand kind of fundamentally what truth and the gathering of it is. And we are in the process of doing it. And I don't know when we'll be on the other side, but I know it's not now.
Yeah.
Well, you know what you don't need to be on the other side of is patreon.com/weirdthings. Support the show.
Yeah,
Why
man.
don't you? Listen, I know that you've been thinking about it. But what do you say you just get on in the hot tub we call Patreon?
Yeah, if you give us $1 an episode. I'm sure you're getting so much out of these episodes, and you just want to give us back. You just want to give us $1.
Yeah, it's called value for value, people. You go to the store, you don't say, well, let me try drinking all this milk, and then maybe I'll just tell a friend. Isn't that great? I'll talk about how great the milk is that I drank from your store. Meanwhile, that cow put out that milk, and that farmer squeezed them cow nipples, and the bottler bottled it, and the driver drove it, and the seller sold it. What are you doing? Head on over to patreon.com/weird.
I'll tell you what, if that metaphor didn't make sense, then give us $2.
Give us 2. You can get early access to our sister show After Things, which is all about being a creative professional. And you make sure that this show happens every week. You know, this week Andrew sat down yesterday to go see Avengers Infinity War, and because that movie is so goddamn long, he won't be back until next week.
He's still there watching it. Yeah.
Still watching it.
We should be getting Andrew back
I think next week.
soon. Is it next week?
I believe May 5th is the word that I heard. So
Right. He is he's close to being finished with the things that
he's almost done being dead battling demons in hell.
Yeah,
he's about to emerge victorious on the other side, bloodied and emboldened.
If you have been listening to these episodes and you're like, God, another week without Andrew, don't worry. Everything that he's done will be very, very exciting when we can reveal it.
Yeah. So I love the mixing of ideas. The idea that he died and that he's also working on something and that he's still watching the very long Marvel
He's doing
movie.
all those. Look, it's a very important vacation-related project that involves him dying, going to hell, battling hell demons,
That's right.
and emerging victorious. He's almost done. And,
Absolutely.
And Android Main will be back, or his replacement.
That's right.
So head on over there, patreon.com/weirdthings.
That's right.
Kick us a little coin, you cheapo.
Gentlemen, I have a couple of shorter segments here. Y'all see the tweet? Did you guys see the tweet?
Which tweet?
Is that a new TV show where
Came
they just
out Wednesday, April 25th.
April 25th? The tweet.
The tweet.
Do you remember where you were when you read the tweet?
Yeah. You remember where you were when you read that John F. Kennedy was assassinated on Twitter?
In a tweet?
11/22/18. No, of course, I'm talking about our favorite futurist and high-tech trillionaire, probably. Elon Musk.
Never heard of him.
April 25th.
Is this
the tweet?
It's Elon Musk, man. He's always getting into something. I did see this tweet. If this is what, I can't imagine that it would be anything else. But that dude always up to something. And this time, you know what, Brian? He might have did it for the last time. Do you see what he's up to now?
No. It can't be worse than selling flamethrowers.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what. Funny you should say flamethrower, because he's inventing a robot dragon.
He says, "Oh, BTW, I'm building a cyborg dragon."
Okay.
I love that the first response.
About effing time.
What? So, what do you think the cyborg dragon is?
Can I tell you? There is a series of books. There's an author named Pierce Anthony who did a series of books called the Incarnations of Immortality series, where the first book, somebody kills death and has to become death, and then the rest are about time, fate, and all this stuff. I loved his books. I got really into them, and I ended up following the rabbit hole down to, as a kid, reading his Adept series of books, which was two worlds. One had magic, one was science. Proton and Phase, they were called.
Okay.
Those are clever names. And there was a shimmering curtain between them. And a few people figured out they could go from one world to the other, right? And once they knew the two worlds were there, the science world attempted to approximate aspects of the fantasy world. Okay. And so, for example, there are no dragons in science world, but they could build simulacrum of them that were very believable, that that you could ride around, that were, in fact, like dog brains and brain stems and nervous systems hooked up to dragon mechanical bodies.
Okay.
So if I could totally see him taking a dog, amplifying everything about the dog's like in a body armor suit or whatever.
Sure.
Stuff's like, permanently attached to, or maybe a rabbit. Rabbits would be too scared. You don't want a scared dragon.
No,
who's the chill? A sloth dragon?
Sloths are dangerous, though. Sloths are slow, but they're dangerous.
What's the most chill animal that you would want to hook up to a giant, powerful, robotic, dragon-like body?
I mean, a golden retriever.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a golden retriever, and he's got implants and everything. So the golden retriever, as far as he knows, he's just walking around in his, he grows up in a robot dragon body. But meanwhile, it's a golden retriever on the inside.
Yeah.
And a dragon body on the outside. That's what I think.
Okay, so that's Brian's guess. A dog put into a mechanical dragon.
No,
robot.
you'd need a bird. It had to be like a parrot's brain or something.
Jeez,
like that.
why? Because you want the dragon to go rah constantly and then constantly be petty and judging you. And
isn't that what dragons do?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, the quiet as a church mouse dog idea is really gonna go
not
go
just
way
dog,
better.
Golden retriever. It's an important distinction.
Yeah, that dragon's gonna hold eggs in its mouth, and it's not gonna break them, Justin.
Yeah, also, it's gonna be constantly seeking your approval.
No, what do you?
Because by the way, a hallmark of the dogs that you've raised has not exactly been silent.
Hey man, listen to what I say, not what I do. I like Sunbun's idea of a cyborg corgi, though. All right, make the case for
Cyborgy.
Cyborgy. I think you're right, though, Justin. If you wanted to take an animal that was already the most dragon-like and give it the body of a dragon, I do think a bird would be correct.
Yeah, I mean, because you're looking at a version of a dinosaur, right? Like a fantasized version of a dinosaur. So, I mean, but even then, it's like I actually wonder how hard it would be to approximate like an AI version of like a parrot's brain.
I bet it's one of those projects that sounds really simple, and then suddenly you discover is really, really difficult. Like, what was the guy? Rodney
Dangerfield.
No. If you type in AI,
I'm trying to make an AI parrot.
Hey, the guy from MIT that made the bug robots,
Rodney Brooks.
That's right. So back in the late 90s or mid 90s, early 90s, he was like, look, let's stop trying to make humans. Humans are really complicated. Let's see if we can just copy a bug. Let's give a simple set of instructions that would mimic a cockroach. Let's conquer that and then climb up from there. It turns out like already it's like they could get halfway there very quickly, and then they discover there's a lot more nuance than you would expect in a
bug's brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess the question would be not making a perfect version, but making something that could approximate a
dragon.
To the outside person, what it would be like. Like you wouldn't be able to make a roach that would actually do roach things,
but
right?
You could make
a roach that looked like what a roach looks like to us, in that it just skittered around and then hid in the walls for a while, right?
Right.
And so I would wonder if you were to do something to make like a cyborg dragon, like what the level, I guess, like what part is the organic matter, or what part is the robot?
You've seen the homegrown cyborg cockroach kits, right? Have you seen this?
No.
So
that's where you like attach like a chip to a dead cockroach and it comes back to life?
No. So what it is, you take a live cockroach, and the instructions are take a live cockroach, and this is the thing, is that it requires you to do actual surgery on the cockroach, which makes some people feel oogie, so it never busted out and went really mainstream. In fact, we talked about doing this on the Mono Road, but we never got around to it because we were like, the negative feedback would be insane. Although, meanwhile, like nobody has a problem with spraying genocidal poisons on them or squishing them or whatever.
Okay.
But the idea of using it for science upsets some people. But you take a cockroach and you put it in ice water, and after about 5 minutes, it will kind of seize up. Basically, it's anesthetized or it can't move.
Right.
And so you have about 5 minutes where you cut open part of the carapace and you inject one electrode into squishy part A, another electrode on squishy part B, and you attach a couple wires to its antenna,
yeah.
and then basically between the feed, the conduction of electricity on one side or the other, you now have a remote controlled cockroach to where you can click a button and it will send a low voltage current that makes the cockroach think there's a wall over here. So it turns left to get away from the wall, and then it feels like, nope, the wall's over there, and then turns to the right.
So all we got to do is just kill a dragon, or no, capture a dragon live and attach electrodes to its antenna.
Again, this goes back to like, what's the question of like, what's the original source material? I guess a Komodo dragon is a dragon.
We talked a few years ago, I think this was like Andrew's analysis, that he believed the idea of dragons were from Europe because and there had been a migration of alligators or crocodiles, one of those that is not native to that area, and they just called it a dragon.
Yeah.
And they believed, over time, build it up.
And that's why like he says, building a cyborg dragon, he would be factually accurate if they were making any kind of enhancements to a Komodo dragon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no, totally. I think that's likely. Like at some point, we're just going to see some research paper, and he's going to be like a dude who was involved in it.
So you guys are both in the robotic dragon or partially organic dragon theory.
Yeah, or yeah, I don't know, or crazy laser targeting eye attached to a Komodo dragon. I mean, you just glue that on there. Technically, that's a cyborg dragon if he uses it and likes it.
Okay. Danny Paez at Inverse.com has his own theory, which is that you guys know that there is a product that Elon Musk makes called the Dragon.
Oh my God, he's talking about putting a living brain inside of a dragon capsule.
Yeah, I'm going to quote from Inverse.com. It seems likely that SpaceX's Dragon capsule is about to become powered by artificial intelligence, and it might offer a human-brain interface via Neuralink, another Elon Musk venture. If a Dragon crew capsule, one in which astronauts would fly, were developed to incorporate a neural lace component, Musk might just bring astronauts with internet-powered superintelligence to space.
So
this is all a theory.
Oh, that seems like that would make a lot more sense.
So there was, I want to say in World War II, an experiment for a guided missile that involved training pigeons to keep a certain target inside of a square, and they would peck left, peck right, and then they would be rewarded with treats for keeping whatever the target is inside of this target zone. Mm-hmm. And then they would put the pigeon inside the missile, and it would peck left, peck right up until instead of a reward, it blew up.
It died,
And it makes me wonder if some kind of like biological interface could be possible with the Dragon capsule, that like really you could, if you stuck a pigeon and said, we're using pigeon run targeting for visual whatever, then technically that would be a cyborg dragon, right?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think the idea is trying to rethink from 2018 forward, what is manned space travel? Like considering where we are now. And it seems very much like Elon Musk to just say, all right, well, I'm already researching all this neural lace stuff. It would be better if you could just plug in to this larger interface. And so therefore a captain or a crew member of a space capsule could know far more, A, about the craft, and B, about where they're going. And maybe that would also help with the idea of the longer trips, like, let's say to Mars, of like, I don't know. Would you be able to get bored if you could, have all of the world's knowledge in your head, at any single moment? Like,
well, and I think that's one of the smart things about the plan. This is a bit of a diversion, but I think that's one of the smartest thing about the plan that Elon unveiled to go to Mars, because it involved other people. You won't get bored, but you could get very, very lonely, right? And so if you make it a party of 150 people, also Dunbar's number, probably not coincidental. then all of a sudden you have a tribe and a village and a vibrant community that matches the amount of people that your primate brain wants to be surrounded by.
Very cool. We get another. So since we're talking about space, you probably did see this over the weekend. Blue Origin successfully tested their New Shepard reusable launch system.
Yeah, I have not seen this. We're looking at it. Boy, I love all of the live streaming, well-produced stuff. I love that they're making it so easy, all these companies, to follow along and understand the technology behind stuff and know what to look for in each of these tests.
Yeah.
It looks good.
So this is a test of their reusable launch system and a little bit of their capsule system. The capsule landed successfully after detaching from the top of the rocket and deploying its parachutes. All in all, this was the 8th flight of the New Shepard system since its launch in 2015 and the 2nd test of the newly redesigned rocket and capsule.
And forgive me if Andrew was here, I bet he would be able to recall it instantly, but is the New Shepard able to do single stage to orbit, or it just gets really high?
Yeah, this I believe this is a capsule / space tourism shaped test, because it goes up to about the Kármán line, but I don't know that it crosses it.
So this is just, hey, you're technically in space, not quite. Yeah, well, I guess that's why they call it Shepard, because Alan Shepard was not the first to orbit. John Glenn was the first to orbit, but Alan Shepard was the first American in space.
Right. So the capsule, after ascending for 2 minutes, the capsule, which can carry 6 people at a time, detaches from the rocket as it reaches the edge of outer space, at which point passengers experience weightlessness. They are also able to see the curvature of the Earth through very large windows.
Dude, that is so dope. I mean, like, it is just so amazing, and it's almost even cooler that this isn't just a SpaceX technology, that, like, we are just watching the new normal be reusable rockets when, I mean, man, like, this was, like, at the point that we began this podcast, it was thought to be implausible, if not impossible, right? Like,
yeah.
And now it's like, this is just, you are an idiot if you're building a rocket and not making it reusable. Well, like, and it is something that you are being clowned for.
I think you nailed it. The remarkable part to me is less that we have reusability, although that is very, very remarkable, but it is an understated second level of amazement that I get from realizing that there are competing designs that are functional. You know, this is what, not that we have to standardize on one or the other, but you know, which flavor of reusable rocket do you want your satellite or your body to go up in?
Well, I kind of like that they're aiming at different things. Like, this is a capsule launch and reusability test system where SpaceX is about going to orbit and breaking out of orbit.
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, look, I think the general concept is a robust ecosystem of a lot of different players trying to make this a reality means that the technology will continue to advance at the pace that it has, which has brought us possibilities that we had not really even counted on 10 years ago. The fact that, I mean, Blue Origin is just kind of, you know, look, they're newer to the game, not to say in terms of the length of when these companies have been around, but certainly in terms of what they've done. And SpaceX is continuing to ramp up based on the idea that they are a huge provider for how to get into space right now, in a way that Blue Origin has the ability, considering its patronage, to sort of take exactly their time before they needed to start making money. I mean, SpaceX, look, again, SpaceX was about to go out of business if they weren't able to start making money on their product.
And having
Blue Origin, I think, can afford to fart around for as long as they want until they get exactly what they want.
Although I mean, I guess there's nobody really nipping at their heels behind them. I mean, maybe ULA is working on some kind of reusable launch stuff.
You'd have to imagine. I mean, obviously, like, there's only so much that they can talk about when they already have contracts for other rockets that they are calling the top of the line. But you'd have to be shocked if they're not on some level working on something in the idea that maybe, you know, the SLS or something isn't going to be funded, that maybe they have plan B.
Yeah.
Yeah. In tangential Elon Musk news, Elon Musk's, not directly related to this, came out today. Yeah, today, that Hyperloop One, this is the Virgin version of Hyperloop, is teaming up with DP World to make a cargo-only shipping business, which will probably start in the Middle East. Richard Branson even said in an interview with MSNBC that they may drop the Hyperloop branding because he believes his company has progressed much further than any other Hyperloop branded company.
Is Hyperloop like an open source thing that they're just all working together?
Yeah, Elon Musk has a Hyperloop project of his own, but I believe he open sourced this technology. And it's basically, if you don't know, it's like, if you know what a maglev train is, it is a train that runs on a magnetic track, but there's also an element where the tube is partially vacuumized of oxygen so that it can reach up to, I believe it's 300 meters a second.
In other words, like when you think about a train levitating on magnets rushing forward, the limitation is that it starts, running headlong into headwinds, and it's just, it's like plowing through molasses. And so the idea is, well, let's make a giant straw to remove the molasses, and with less air, there'll be less air resistance, and we could just zippity-doo-dah super fast down.
Yeah, they said that in the press release for this, that this would bring the price of trucking materials across the world, but with the convenience and speed of flying cargo around.
Wow!
So it's interesting. It is good to see that this technology is being used for a very specific business purpose.
I'm still very bearish on this ever being practical in America. Yeah. I think we'll fly stuff around with drones, but I do understand in the Middle East or whatever, where you have giant chunks of desert and there's no easements or right-of-ways or eminent domain concerns or any of that, then yeah, by all means, just build a giant straw and shoot stuff from one side to the other.
There's a few places in the Middle East where you don't exactly have to worry about citizen lawsuits or a mayor not being reelected because you took away the one thing that the locals like.
Right.
There's some top-down authority in the Middle East that can allow for these projects to move a little faster. I'm very curious though. I think that the one thing I will say about this over drone delivery, and I think that they are trying to do things differently. Like they're saying like that these like Maersk size
cargo
shipping containers that come off ships can like then unload right into these tubes and go out to distribution hubs. Whereas I think drone delivery, I don't think you're looking at taking the entire payload of a Maersk container and then flying that somewhere. Mm-hmm. But at least it would be theoretically unobtrusive if it's underground in a way that you will always either be able to see or hear a drone.
Yeah. I kind of am of two minds, because I think you made a very good point in that there are parts of the world where creating large, whether they're above ground or below ground, tracks is incredibly beneficial. But it reminds me a lot of just like pneumatic tubes. I'm sure that there are permanent pathways that are very helpful, but then it becomes very permanent. But on the other hand, it's exactly like a train or any number of light rail or our existing maglev trains. So I'm kind of on both sides about this.
Like both sides in terms of being like for it or against it, or
just whether
betting on it versus betting against.
Yeah, more betting on it versus against.
I mean, I think it will find, like many other things, a very specialized use that it will be very, very helpful. But I think, unfortunately, they're selling it on the vision of transforming reality and your everyday commute or whatever. And I just don't see that happening any more than the Segway transformed how urban communities were planned.
I mean, I don't know. I'm really, I think there's a reason why Elon Musk has open sourced the Hyperloop technology and put his own money in the tunneling technology, because, and not to say that he doesn't put his money behind Hyperloop, but obviously the Boring Company is something that he has taken more and more seriously, because I think that's really, that's the point in which, like, you can go to a city hall and say, hey, can we tunnel under downtown? And they can say yes or no.
They're like, a number of people bothering me if you do that. Mole men don't count, so yes. And whereas can I go through 5 different business districts and carve up a bunch of stuff, cause a bunch of traffic problems, all that stuff.
Yeah, because even the initial Hyperloop idea of, all right, well, we're going to put an elevated train on Route 5 going, up and down California, you're still dealing with a million kinds of problems that will probably never be resolved.
Yeah. Well, and so I was thinking about kind of the permanence of a Hyperloop station, and it reminded me of this video that I had seen a few years ago, and I want to share it with you. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. I don't think it's a well-known thing, but have you ever heard of this company, Dahir InShot?
No, but I'm
No.
show me.
So this is a Russian something firm. I don't exactly know what they do. They come up with these previs sort of videos demonstrating ideas and concepts. And the Hyperloop got me thinking about this video that they made for their idea of an automated restaurant.
Dahir InShot would like to present instant service technology for large-scale dining establishments. The essence of this invention lies in the automation of the processes of cooking and serving meals, which makes it possible to reduce customer wait time to just a few minutes.
All right,
board?
so far we're seeing a bunch of clip art prepackaged, what looks like breaking Fox News alert news
Sure,
intro
yeah.
packages.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a virtual representation of basically it looks like a ballroom at a hotel with a bunch of people sitting in.
Yeah,
it.
kind of looks like something you'd see in like Disney World, like one of the little like cafeteria places where there's like nothing but expansive seating.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's take a closer look at this technology. The server takes an order from a group of customers and, using a tablet computer, sends a request to the kitchen, where the meals are prepared.
Okay,
Above-
so far we have a human being used as an iPad, which I'm questioning why the human being even needs to be there, because I just went through the United Terminal at Newark, and they already got this on rails where they just go straight to the iPad. You just punch in the food you want.
The tablet computer sends a request to the kitchen, where the meals are prepared.
Okay.
Above the dining area is a space in which meals are transferred from the kitchen to customers' tables using conveyor belts and mechanical arms. The orders are distributed using a system.
So can you describe this?
Okay,
Ryan?
so imagine. Okay, so what they're saying is keep the human who walks up and says, "Tell me the food you want to have," but eliminate the other human that just walks over and hands you the food, and instead replace it with a giant, rigid, inflexible set of conveyor belts that can send pods of food one at a time to various tables.
A dish reaches its final destination, a compartment located about the customer's table. An automated mechanical arm takes it and brings it down into the dining area.
This is okay.
The automation
This
of the
is so
processes of
much
cooking and
more
serving
expensive
food
than
makes it
minimum
possible to
wage.
serve customers
Like,
so
this is
quickly.
insane.
Can you describe the mechanism?
So basically, all of this is. I thought we were going to get like some sort of kitchen technology where it's like, all right, like you can understand that pre-work takes this amount of time, washing vegetables, chopping vegetables, creating simple stews that you're going to use in multiple dishes. Here's an automated way that we can like take out all that work and you can reduce kitchen staff. But instead, this is all about, like what Brian pointed out, fixing literally the most replaceable thing, which is food running. They created a gigantic, like a totally super expensive system that involves a gigantic venue where you can only put literally the ceiling light comes down and brings your food.
Yeah,
It's a
basically
big metal arm that comes in from the
that
roof.
comes out of the ceiling, right? And then deposits your food on there. The infrastructure costs are insane looking.
Not only that,
Customers leave the table.
still have to bust the
server
table.
collects the used dishes and places them in a special container that is then sent to the lower floor, where an automated high-pressure dishwasher is located. This technology makes it possible to
By the way,
minimize
yeah, because
manual labor.
for whatever reason, you definitely need somebody else to do it. Like you can't even rely on the stupid customers to put the thing in the other thing.
it's just it's great, and the sizes of the restaurants that they're showing off are
it's
gigantic. gigantic.
Well, and I don't think they mean it to be a restaurant. I think this is for banquets. If you have a banquet facility and you think somehow that maybe if you're catering to people who don't like the ethnicity of the country of the convention that they're at, and you want to avoid them seeing any human beings, then
specific, sure.
right? Then this makes sense.
A restaurant solution for visiting races.
I mean, that's what it feels like to me, right?
So they've got a bunch of B-roll here. But this is huge.
It's
Hundreds
massive.
of tables.
This is, I can't imagine even banquets, like even like the size of an average banquet hall where you're going to be serving everybody a meal. Like, I can't even imagine what this would be for.
Well, and the other thing is, like, even if the banquet hall, you can't move the tables
Yeah,
around.
exactly. You can't. There's
from
no
the
flexibility with this. It's like, let's install a completely rigid structure that is not ideal for very many different things. Wow.
It's just wow. Also, yeah, not only does it not save time because all it's doing is eliminating the person handing you your food.
Right.
It's not speeding up the thing that takes the longest, which is cooking the food.
Right. Well, and it's reducing, I would say, a lot flexibility, which is also a very important thing when you're hosting various events.
Because there's a ton of footage of like what these restaurants look like, and because you can't move tables around, they have to have like a million different types of tables. Huge tables for big parties, small tables. Some of these have booths somehow.
All right, this is ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Get us out of here.
There are a lot more of these videos that maybe we'll look at in the future.
Does this company like exist?
This is a real company. They have.
I mean, it's a YouTube channel, but are they a company?
Oh yeah. Yes. That's a very long story that we can get into another time.
Okay.
But
All right.
if you Google Tahir in chat, you'll find lots of their videos as well as some very good commentated sort of
like
breakdowns
the solar
this.
roadways breakdowns
Oh,
that
God.
people were doing.
But just thinking of like Hyperloop and the very specific point-to-point delivery sort of reminded me of this very dumb idea. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys this week for weird things. You guys have picks?
That's all you got. All you got is
All I
an
have
hour
is an
and
hour.
change of amazing
there we go.
stories.
Yeah, all you do is just making great content. # premium content.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah.
Is your pick my pick?
I don't think so, but I do know if what you think is your pick is my pick, then I think that I very much enjoyed your pick.
Yeah.
If
Well,
Infinity War.
I mean, is that going to end up being all of After Things? Are we just going to talk Infinity War? Or are we going to?
Well,
I think we have an email,
We
but
got
I'm
an
sure
email.
at some point we'll wind up chopping up.
Let's save it
spoiler
for when
team.
Andrew's here, because I'm
Yeah.
sure Andrew will want to talk
I
about
agree.
it.
I agree. Suffice to say, I rather enjoyed Infinity War, but if I'm gonna pick something else, I'm gonna give a shout out to season 3 of The Expanse. It's very, very good. Still a very good show, and it's now got an in-depth enough story that I'm forgetting parts of season 1 and season 2, which has me excited to go back to rewatch all those because I know they put a lot of effort into making everything consistent in a believable near future sci-fi story that takes place in our solar system.
And it's based off a book series, right? So, like,
Yep.
I think Tom has a better idea because he's read these books, but like the first season is about the first book or the first half of the first book or something like that.
Yeah, well, and in fact, the end of the first book occurs halfway through season 2, which is very unusual. It felt very much like a season finale, but you're only halfway through the season, which I think is a smart move because it gives you time. You're still rolling through the season to queue up the story that engages in season 3.
Yeah. Very cool. The Expanse. That's sci-fi, right?
Yeah, Sci-Fi Channel.
Channel.
SYFY.
Justin, you got a pick?
I want to real quick just make my pick a shout out to something that I first saw actually on Bryce's Twitter today, and that was a video by Simone Gertz. You probably know her as the shitty robot lady. She makes hilariously ridiculous robots that do.
Oh yeah, she'll build a robot to apply lipstick and then submit herself to this robot smashing red all over her face.
She just did a hilarious video for Westworld, where she made a hilariously crappy video or a robot that was supposed to be her and then like acted like it was a Westworld kind of thing. So she had a video today revealing that she found out last week that she has a brain tumor, and it really kind of affected me. The video is something that I would encourage everybody to watch, but more specifically, I wanted to point out her Patreon, patreon.com/Simone Gertz. She's going to be unable to be making YouTube videos for as long as it takes for her to recover, and that's something that the tumor is benign, but she doesn't know exactly how long that's going to take. And Brian, I think it would be enlightening for everybody to have you, somebody who does not make all of his money on YouTube revenue, but YouTube revenue is a huge part of the equation, how scary it is or would be if all of a sudden your main way of making or a portion of that goes away, right?
Well, and that is something, maybe this is an after things topic, but that is something that over the last couple of years, as the operation has grown and we have a lot of people who are all working together, we realized first, like, oh man, it's really a bummer when Brian goes off to do a stage show because everything has to stop for those 3 to 4 days or whatever. And it's like, imagine if everything had to stop for 4 to 8 months during a medical, terrifying thing. And it really has me in a place where I just want to empower. I want to diversify so that the engine doesn't have to shut down.
Because like at the very least, you've had guests on Scam School that could theoretically take over. Jason is one half of the Modern Rogue, and Jason could kind of shift into a lead role for a little bit. Her job is it's her and a camera, and she's not only the builder, she's also the main personality. So here's all I'll say. Independent content creation is something that we talk a lot about, not only on this show, but on After Things. And if you believe in this as not only, a fan of hers, but also just in general, this is the time to coalesce and, throw a little coin, for somebody that is going to rely on this, as she kind of goes through something really serious. So, I don't really know. I went to a party at her house once. I met her once. She is an incredibly sweet person, at least while I walked through her house. So this is primarily just me looking at that and seeing not only my own possible future, but also the future of all of my closest friends. And so it definitely is something that I wanted to direct attention to. So patreon.com/SIMONEGIERTZ.
Yeah. I have a pick. It's not as heavy. Netflix has had a bunch of new stuff come out, including the second season of a show I really, really enjoyed last year, and that is the Brazilian Netflix original 3%. It's back, baby. It takes place in this sort of semi-post-apocalyptic world where when people turn 20, they go through the process, which is this big test, and only 3% of the young adults who go through this process are succeed and are allowed to go live in the offshore. So,
basically paradise, and everyone else is the 97% hoi polloi.
Right, and life in the mainland is dirty and
nasty, brutish, and short.
It's tough. It's a tough life, and so the first season you follow a group of kids as they go through the process, and season 2 really I think is delivering in a way I didn't expect, in that it is showing us what happens after, both on and off the mainland. So I really recommend you check that out. It's 3% on Netflix. I think if you kind of like that Hunger Games or Maze Runner-y sort of aesthetic of like young
beautiful young people walking in white hallways, wearing jumpsuits.
Well, I mean, check this out. This is a little more mature, I would say, than like a typical young adult sort of series. So if you want something with a little more meat, 3% has a lot of that. It's got politicking and subterfuge and spies and stuff. It's very cool. But for that's going to do it here for us here at the Weird Things podcast. Brian, Justin, thank you very much.
How's it been?
It's been weird.
Hey.
Whew. Good show.
Man, I had not heard about that Simone Gertz thing. That's a real bummer.
Yeah, it was just today.
Yeah, dude. Tell you what, my uncle had a situation similar to hers, except it turns out it wasn't a tumor. It was a collection of blood vessels that was acting, putting pressure on his brain that made it a similar situation to a tumor. And then I had another friend that was an actual benign tumor that was like very much affecting the chemical makeup of his daily interactions, and explained a lot of really erratic behavior that had existed for a little bit. So it's something that for a couple different reasons, I was definitely very, very moved by it. And the video is just kind of
heartbreaking.
Very brave. Very, 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 very brave by her. I
Yeah.
think.
And she brings levity to it so that it's not depressing. I tweeted out with hashtag tumor humor because she said it in the video.
Oh, got it.
And so I thought, well, she said it. I think maybe that's fine.
Ill Inc. just showed up saying, for crying out loud, I thought I caught the beginning of this stream. Don't worry. We're about to start the After Things podcast where we talk about being an independent creative.
That's right.
In fact, here, I'm going to run to the restroom in the meantime.
Sure. I'm going to turn on a little bit of music. What is this tweet? Oh, that's that. Okay. But yeah. So that's that. Oh, I have a voicemail. I don't care what it says. I don't even care. Hey, Justin.
What's up, homie?
How you doing?
Just got back from old Vegas there.
Oh yeah, Vegas pants. How was that? Or was it
Vegas Viva TMS? They never really settled, I think, on
different names.
A regular branding for that. Great, so fun to see everybody.
Okay.
Got to hang out with so many rad people, and the whole DKG crew was there, and so many Diamond Club folks and people that I hadn't met. Zoe Brings Bacon was there. She brought
right.
All the way from the UK. And yeah, I'll tell you what, it's just the only thing better than going to Vegas for the weekend is the first full night's sleep after you go to Vegas for the weekend. Yeah. And so I very much enjoyed that this morning.
That post-vacation come down.
Well, there's just one thing. Here's Vegas in a nutshell was, I was down at the tables at the plaza playing blackjack, and then everybody's around the table, like all these Frog Pants people, all these DKG people, and I'm having a great time, and we're laughing, and then I'm like, you want to know what? I'm gonna hit the. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be the old man, and I'm gonna go sleep. So I say my goodbyes, and everybody else is just wide-eyed, ready to roll, like they're having a great time. And I feel like such an old man. I get up to my room and it's 3:40 in the morning, and I'm like, okay, you want to know what? That's Vegas in a nutshell. Is feeling like you left the party early when it's 3:40 in the morning.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm glad you had fun. I'd been seeing a lot of the DKG people posting photos and stuff. So.
Yeah, no, great time seeing everybody and being a part of it, hanging out on stage with Scott and Brian and Nicole Spags, who I hadn't seen in a little bit, and Tom Merritt, of course. So it was a blast, and the musical acts were great. Same Sex Mary, oh my God, they just keep getting better and better every time I see them. And then Bob Log the Third. You ever heard of Bob Log the Third?
No, I haven't.
Oh, go Google up a little Bob Log the Third.
Exactly how it sounds. Oh,
yeah, BOBLOG. I'm pretty sure.
Boblog111.com.
That's it. Yeah.
Whoa, this guy's got a look.
Yeah. So he performs.
I'm asking you to please, how do you say this in Finland? I'm sure how to say that in Italian, goddammit. How do you say it, goddammit? In German. Okay. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus.
So he's like doing a one-man band sort of thing. Oh, wow. Huh. He's getting a lot of lap dances.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Does he sing too? I'm assuming he sings. This video doesn't have it.
very sparingly.
Oh, really?
Well, because he talks through his mask the entire time, and it's you know, it kind of sounds like he's coming through on a Wendy's drive-through, but it's primarily, I'll tell you what, it was one of those things where when I was outside talking to people, catching up with people, it kind of sounded like the same song over and over and over and over again, and then you watch it live, and it's just a spectacle. It is just crazy. So that was great. And I gotta say, I didn't see any of the band in the middle. But I will say, Same Sex Mary did 2 covers. One was of Weird Al's Yoda, which was great. And the other was of oh God. What's Randy Newman? A Randy Newman song called Mankind. That was like many Randy Newman songs, really, really, really dark, but they played it awesome. It was fantastic.
Very cool.
This is who? Who did I miss?
Same Sex Mary at the Vegas thing. Yeah, no, God's song. That's why I love Mankind.
All right. So we've got a letter here for After Things. Here we go. Okay. You guys ready? You good, bro?
Yeah.
You good, Justin?
Yep.
You need to take a break? Okay. All right. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the After Things podcast. I'm Bryce Castillo, filling in once again for Andrew Main, joined as always with Justin Robert Young.
Yo!
And Brian Brushwood.
Hello.
We got a letter this week, guys, from
Yeah.
an anonymous diamond. He writes,
Oh.
Hey, gang minus Andrew. I'm flying back home, and it's just hit me that I have a fear of flying. Oops. What's saving me now is that I brought the Wi-Fi, and I'm listening to the Mubert music app that Bryce recommended on a previous show. That was like a procedurally generating
Yeah,
music thing.
there was like 3 different flavors for here's music for studying, here's music for fighting in an action movie, here's
concentrating.
here's music
or-
for being sad.
How do you overcome instant fear? Thanks, an anonymous diamond.
Man, I experience this quite a bit because everyone has a different physiology. And when I first started doing magic, I would start to do, it's one thing to learn the moves. It's another thing to do a trick for another person. And then occasionally you would get that flash. You can feel your adrenal ducts firing, right? That you feel that cold fire of adrenaline into your belly. And you know that what happens next is your hands start shaking and you start, I mean, that's a very real psychoreactive drug that's just been injected into your body.
Right.
And I used to feel a lot of guilt about being nervous or scared of things. And it was actually watching the World Series of Poker at some point that somebody had a really good hand, and when he grabbed his chips, his fingers were trembling, and they mentioned that that's a natural side effect of the adrenaline rush. And that once I thought about it in terms, I divorced it from scared and instead thought about it not in value judgmental terms, but instead thought I am experiencing a physiological state of heightened excitement that is a result of an adrenaline rush that I just experienced. And once I did that, I stopped judging myself and I started thinking, okay, this is a thing that just happened. Whatever it is, let's say I could be doing close up at the local McDonald's or whatever, but then former President Barack Obama walks up and says, show me a card trick. And it's like, there's no way. That is such an exciting moment. There's no way I'm not going to have an adrenaline rush from it. That doesn't mean I'm scared. That doesn't mean I'm nervous. That doesn't mean I'm beneath the task or whatever. But I do need to acknowledge that I am in a situation where this is going to happen, and I felt the adrenaline rush, and now I need to know what's going to happen next. Once I divorced judgment from it, that was the biggest thing for me, because then I learned, like, okay, the effects seem to last about 10 minutes long, and it's important that I do not stop performing during that 10 minutes, because if I do, I'm going to lose my rhythm, and I will lose the audience and all that stuff. So instead, I always had a couple of tricks that involved handing the deck over to someone else and giving instructions. In fact, that's the reason I moved from close-up magic into stage magic, is because what I liked about stage magic is I could experience that adrenaline rush and instead let my body experience all of those horrific side effects while never disturbing the show and continuing to plow on straight forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what has attracted me to what we do on Night Attack and Weird Things, because there are genuine moments of those adrenaline rushes, but there's no physiological side effect to it. So the answer to your question, Anonymous Diamond.
Here's how you solve fear.
I mean, number one, you experience it and you allow yourself, you acknowledge it and move forward anyway. So you experience life. If you're a gamer, this will make sense. I apologize if you're not, but both as a real-time strategy game and as a first-person shooter. I think about the decisions that I make, from everything from sketching out a show order to booking travel plans to anything, even in the moment, figuring out how I'm going to get from one side of the stage to the other. That's all real-time strategy, but then the actual movement of it is first-person shooter. And when you encounter those unfortunate side effects of fear, there's no breaking the plan that real-time strategy version of you came up with. Instead, there's mitigating the negative side effects to it. And some people do it pharmacologically, which has its limits. Other people do it by ritual. You know what? Let me just give this answer. The answer is build up structures in your mind through experience that allow you to handle this and come out on the other side. For me, one of the big ones has been repetition, being familiar with all of the pieces of, like, for example, for you, the MacGuffin is being on a flight. Like, oh, here's the scary part where we take off. Here's the scary part where I try to not remember we're at 35,000 feet. Here's the scary part where we land. Being familiar with those and having gone through them, I think will be very, very helpful. For me, it's
basically immersion.
Yes. Well, like, for example, there's never been a time that I don't have to pee right before going on stage. And there's never been a time when I don't hear the intro video and I just think like, well, if there's no going back now, here we go. And it's genuinely terrifying every single time. And you get the adrenaline rush. But doing it enough times allows you to divorce yourself from the physiological experience. And instead, as they say in meditation, my answer is get the Headspace app, because there's some great metaphors in there that get you to a place where you can acknowledge what's happening to you physically and emotionally, but not own it as part of your essence, your ego, who you are as a person. If you can instead acknowledge, oh, this is the part where I get scared, and then in 5 minutes I'll no longer be in this place, then you'll find yourself in a much better place. So I would say familiarity and weirdly enough, like the Headspace app, do a little meditation, build up some structures, some places for your mind to go, some metaphors that help you distance yourself from what's happening to you physiologically and emotionally in that moment. That's my answer. Okay. That was a long way to get there, but I had to talk it out.
Justin.
So I would say that there's two phases to this. Number one, congratulations, you've already succeeded on the first, which is you got on the plane and realized that you were scared of flying. Because the biggest part about fear is it preemptively affecting your ability to do things. And so if you're already on the flight and you're like, oh, wait, this is weird, then you're already halfway there. At least you're still making the decisions that will make you happy and move you forward without having it affect that. Now, I can only say my own point of view as somebody who traveled a lot of ways that I dealt with scary flights or just general fear of flying. I very much didn't have a fear of flying until at some point, there's like that little, piece of code that gets into your brain and starts replicating, where I started thinking about how much I'd flown. And I'm like, well, I'm way more likely to die in a flight because I'm flying so much.
Yeah.
So it was like one of those things that just kind of kept going. There were two things that wound up sort of surfacing for me that helped me deal with it. Number one was a moment I had on a flight when I was a kid. Me and my little brother I forget where we were going, but it was a very bumpy flight. And as it turned out, we were sitting next to a pilot. And so the pilot, wanting to calm down these two kids that were with their mom, started explaining just like the physics of how airplanes worked and how much if you are rocking back and forth in a turbulent flight, that is the plane doing the maximum amount to keep you safe, because it is the flexibility of the plane itself that keeps it structurally intact. So if you are bouncing all over the place, congratulations, the plane's working fine, and this is the natural side effect. The other thing, which is a little darker, is I started assuming I was going to die on every flight. And not to say that I was like raising up my panic, but rather saying, okay, let's take this. If my brain's going to be an a-hole to me, let's take this to its extreme and not worry for death, but assume death. Mm-hmm. What would I like to be doing? What mind frame would I like to be in? And how would I think of my life in my final moments? And it was through that I kind of found serenity. I found appreciation for the life that I had led. I found happiness in some of the decisions that I'd made, and even a wistful nature to what could have been highlights the possibilities that exist when you land. And so I kind of called my brain's bluff and just said, no. You don't just get to say, ooh, you might die. No, we're dead. What do we think right now? How do we act? And what do we think? Like, because you don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, yeah, no, I don't know how somebody would know how I was when I was dying on a plane that was going down. But it's like he was screaming and yelling and being like, no, you want to be cool and calm and collected. So I practiced being cool and calm and collected. And I wanted to think of all the fun things that have happened in my life and everything that can happen. So I wanted to be serene. And so there I was like, oh, wait, look. I am who I wanted to be in my final moments, and that gave me peace going forward. So that's my super weird, dark way that I dealt with fear of flying.
So I would two things. One, I'm glad you mentioned talking to a professional, because the more you learn about the redundancies in airplanes, the more reassuring it is. For example, the bobbing up and down, and when you see a metal wing, move flapping up and down, yeah. It's very uncomfortable until you find out that they build those to the tolerances that basically it's like a bird's wing. So you're able to go 90 degrees up before they're going to snap. And then that changed the metaphor for me, so that every time we hit turbulence, I didn't think of metal being nearly broken. I thought about making a paper airplane with giant, big, wide, floppy wings, and I imagined bombing it up and down. And I am not the least bit worried about one of these paper wings snapping off and flying away. Yeah. Once you realize that's what's happening in that, it helps a tremendous bit.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and I think Justin brings up a good logical construct that worked for him, is I would say try on the logical solution or to talk yourself out of your reasons for fear, but acknowledge the possibility that it might be something you can't logic away.
Right.
When I've had panic attacks, which I never had until I decided to go independent from an online network and also do a television show at the same time. Once I got there, I realized, oh, this cannot be logicked away. It has to be endured and come out the other side. So you can turn your focus outward to the things you think you're afraid of and figure out whether or not you're afraid of them. And if you realize that they cannot be logicked away, because some of it can be. For me, the fear of flying was largely logicked away. With stuff, for example, like, do you realize like that one fatality on the Southwest Airlines flight was the first fatality in 7 years?
In a long time, yeah.
Yeah, like just insane.
And it was somebody who had a heart attack, like not the person sucked out of the airplane.
Right. Somebody said, "Oh, laws." That's probably not how it went. That's
don't think that's
insensitive and too soon.
But yeah, even in emergencies, incredibly safe to travel.
Right.
And you're right. I was about to say this, is that you can't. Sometimes you don't have logical fears. You have illogical responses to the situation.
Right.
And I would think something that you could do to help yourself is take note not of yourself or the situation, but the environment and the people in it. There's a reason that trust that there is a reason hundreds of thousands of people fly every single day, constantly, all the time, and that other people are able to feel okay. And if that's something that can help you, is a little bit of herd mentality, the idea that like no one else is in a panic, and there are certainly people who are well aware of all of these constructs way more than yourself. That might at least be able to give you some sort of temporary or short-term relief in that, okay, like if something was going on right now, people would know about it, but at least things are working the way that they're supposed to, and a track record of the thing working the way it's supposed to is incredibly good.
You know what? I think part of the fear is a different version of the trolley problem. You're familiar with the trolley problem, right?
Right.
So the trolley problem is you got two tracks, and if a train is going to stick on its current track, it's going to kill 2 people or kill 5 people. But you are standing in front of a switch, and you have the opportunity to flip a switch and kill 0 people or 1 people or demonstrably fewer people. Mm-hmm. And when it's phrased that way, everybody has no problem saying, yeah, no, I'd flip that switch because it would save fewer people and I could accept responsibility for increasing the amount of survivors. But when it's rephrased, again, statistically the exact same problem as, okay, there's 5 people that are about to get run over, but you can push this obese person into the way of the train and save them. So it's statistically the exact same thing. Once you put a face to it and all that stuff and take action, people are way less comfortable with doing that.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of the same that pushes people in the anti-vaccine movement, because a disease happening to their kid, they could convince themselves is an outside force acting on them, over which they did not choose and they did not select, and what a bummer it happened this way. Whereas the risk of them being the one to inject their kid, and even if it's 1 in 1,000 kids get sick and die because of the vaccine, mm-hmm. the risk of them being the ones who pulled the trigger, who pulled the lever on that trolley problem and made their kid a casualty is so great that it's terrifying. And I think likewise, when it comes to flying, yes, you understand logically that driving in a car is 100,000 times more dangerous. Like by the numbers, we lose 30,000 people a year to auto wrecks. Sure. We've lost 1 in the last 5-7 years. These numbers are probably wrong. To plane crashes, which means by every possible metric, getting behind the wheel is way more insane than getting onto a plane. But the difference is you have the perception of control. You have the false feeling of being the one in charge, mm-hmm. and understand that those are cognitive illusions if you can, and if you can't, then figure out a way to buckle up and get through it.
And I would probably say, and as something to patch over the issue, right? You mentioned he used the Mubert app. Like, I think if you can find a way to distract yourself with something that you really know engages with you, that you will be able to get over the hump of doing it. I always load up on podcasts and TV shows before I go on a flight, and I sometimes I'll try to get stuff that I haven't seen before or I need to see or whatever. But I also try to get stuff that I know is really good, know is really funny, know is really engaging. Whether you're playing Hearthstone or over the Wi-Fi or something that can focus you away from your outer environment, that will at least help you. I don't think that will solve a fear of flying, but I think that will get you through the situation.
It just starves the oxygen
Yeah.
to whatever it is. And for me, it was boredom. It's just like, all right, at a certain point, like I've been on a million flights. There's like, I know, I'm sure everybody, it's an eye roll for people who think that, haven't been on a lot of flights and everyone is precious and you can see the beautiful clouds. But for me, it's like literally just a crappy teleporter that like I just wish would be over as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So I just, whether it's that or that every waking moment is a nightmare, you can always do yourself a favor and have a fun little pinwheel that your brain can focus on instead of whatever else your brain's going to go into. And so I think that's where I would never say that somebody is in the wrong for, taking, a few Xanax or if you a couple glasses of wine before the flight or something like that, or having a switch or making sure that you've, like, I agree with you, Bryce. I always have the one movie that I know I can rewatch a million times, that I have rewatched a million times, because there's always that one moment after the Wi-Fi goes out when you start to land, and it's like just a really annoying 20 minutes. And unless you're sleeping, it's like, God, it just helps to have a movie that you can always hit 20 minutes on.
Is going to be good.
It'll still be going,
Yeah.
and you don't feel bad being like, oh yeah, like I wonder what happens at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh no, wait, I know it. Let me just pause it and get off the plane.
By the way, that was my experience last night when I got off the long flight plane. You get to see all the unfinished movies and television programs that everybody else was watching, and there's part of me that's sad. I'm like, oh, you don't know how Thor Ragnarok ends.
Yeah.
Or I think you could even do the opposite. I don't have a fear of flying, but I think I get a little bit of car sick on flights, or a little air sick. I don't know how you would call it. I don't end up vomiting or anything, but I really get a real stomach issue of just like, oh man, something's happening. And it's usually at the end of like the second flight. When there's two flights, is usually like right at the end. I'm almost done. And I actually think the thing that helps me with that, not to say that this is the same thing as a fear of flying, but the thing that helps me with that is sleeping. I end up on so many flights recently, I have found myself asleep before we took off.
Which makes sense, because think about it, an airplane is a giant white noise tube that gently rocks everyone at a slightly warm temperature to sleep. And that's by design.
Let me say this. If you don't sleep and you travel for a living, you are going to burn yourself out into a withered husk and you will die. If you don't sleep on flights and you take a job where you have to travel for a living, then it is your job, the only skill. Everything else we've said, nonsense. Accepting your fate, downloading the Headspace app, it's secondary, tertiary concern to train yourself to sleep sitting up and learn how to sleep on flights.
I know for sure it was the case with Chad Johnson. Was it also the case with you, Bryce, that on the first couple of flights, you were like, oh, no, I don't sleep on flights. And then very quickly that ceased to be the case?
That's not me. I sleep on flights.
Oh, you do? Okay, you always have. Okay.
Yeah.
I know
that
like, I think it was Chad that was just, Brant and sleep. That's a whole different other thing. But Chad will like proudly announce like oh no I can't fall asleep on flights. Yeah. 3 weeks later he was a master at going right to sleep the moment you get on a plane.
Yeah.
No, you have. I mean, look again. I enjoy getting to places. I don't particularly enjoy flying. It even as I did it a lot, it just became this very frustrating blackout portion of my day where I never really got a lot of stuff done, and I was just kind of sleeping because I was taking early flights and everything. But sleep. Whatever you need to do to get to sleep, go to sleep as long as you possibly can.
And remember that, like, sometimes for some people, sleep is an active process. You have to put yourself in a specific position to go to sleep or to fall asleep. Not everyone falls asleep to watching TV or listening to music or whatever.
Right.
You may have to put in earbuds and have nothing playing. You may have to have no earbuds versus if you have them when you're watching.
I mean, there's even goofy stuff like I've realized the recipe for me is earplugs in, something that shuts down the noise, and wearing a hat so that nothing touches my face, and then throwing a hoodie sweatshirt like I'm one of Justin's birds, like just being in this increasingly warm, humid, tired, gently shifting, white noise generating environment puts me out right away, which helps quite a bit.
Oh, also, like, I fart a lot, like, on flights. Like, I don't know whether it's like a pressurized thing, but like I lost any and all of my humanity when it comes to being self-conscious about farting when it's on a flight.
There's definitely a memory I have. There was a time that I figured out the most comfortable position on a Southwest Airlines flight was to take one of the very back seats and prop up my feet wearing these giant boots onto each of the back of the armrest of the chair in front of me.
So you like stirrups.
So I'm like I'm in the stirrups or whatever, and lean over, and I'm just wedged in the fetal position, and I would just cash out. And there was definitely one time that I farted so loud I woke myself up. Startled.
Wait, you were asleep in the
I was asleep, and I farted in my sleep so loud that it woke me up, and I was like, I was just conscious enough to know, like, I just farted so loud I woke myself up, and I realized the best move was to close them eyes and go right back to sleep.
No one will be able to tell. There's so much white noise, you can barely hear anything. Fart your ass off. It doesn't matter, and it will make your life better because you're not trying to keep all that broiling whatever.
I forgot where I read this, but like the number one fear of this I don't know if it's right or wrong. Maybe you'll be able to find some vestiges of this on the internet, but I seem to remember at some point that the number one concern that women over men had about sleeping on flights was the fear of drooling in their sleep. That's a half-remembered factoid from 20 years ago.
No, you want to know what? That is something that I do still have in my pro sleep flying. I worry about it. It doesn't stop me from doing it, but it's the reason why I always get window because
you can hide it.
Will lean up against it and just have my face. So if I'm drooling on anything, I'll be drooling on the side of the plane. That's why the next level of sleep flying is always center seat sleep fly. That just not only is it the fear. Actually, you want to know what? It's not so much drooling, it's leaning. That really worries me on a flight. And so like I've gotten better at the dead pencil drop. Staying dead center while you're sleeping.
So we had on the flight back yesterday on our big flight, we were in the center 3 seats of a United flight that had 2, 3, and 2. And
Gotcha.
So I was in the center of the center. So Bonnie was already mildly claustrophobic when she's wedged between me and the serving cart, but she was in the aisle. I was in the middle. And I had one of those flyers next to me who apparently hadn't seen the Reddit image that says the window guy gets the window, the aisle guy gets the leg room, the middle guy gets both armrests. I definitely was sitting next to a guy who thought that being in the aisle also entitled him to the
both armrests.
Yeah, it's not the case, people. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, that's something where that's bad move.
Yeah. Oh, if you get a window seat, you get like a leaning space. You can kind of lean against the fuselage.
That's exclusively. Now, the downside of that is that it's more difficult you have to plan your liquid intake because it's a huge affair when like you get one visit to the bathroom before you start getting the stink eye. You can't be the guy. you know, if you are going to have a beverage on the flight, you're not having beer because that's too much liquid volume. You're going to stick to the hard liquors and no mixers.
Or I don't know. I mean, I've definitely had a few, but you're right. Just whatever your tolerance, you get one. You get one trip out, and even then, it's like
you got to time it.
I'm always up in the front by the bathroom, and so it's not the end of the world to kind of like take 2 steps and go to the bathroom, but still, it's an issue, and those seats are only getting smaller and smaller. Like taking your navigation.
Did you see
your butt is right in front of getting closer and closer to everybody's face with every redesign of those airplanes.
Did you see the saddle-based seats, the ones that are basically standing?
They're awful.
See, no, here I got into this thing because whoever put it up on Twitter was
I think that was friend of the show Paul Freeland who put it up there. Like F a bunch of this.
I'm not totally against it if the price drop matches it and it's like a commuter flight. Like I would go to LA, I'd go to Portland, I'd go to Seattle, San Diego, any of those like
Houston to Austin, Houston to Dallas. That's already Houston to Austin is a 25-minute flight, which is insanely short. I would have zero problem riding that on a saddle.
Specifically, if I would make me more likely to take flights on those if there was like instead of the normal $100 thing that it takes to get to any of those places that I named.
It was just $50.
50?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I would take that $50
instead of a 3.5-hour flight. You have a 25-minute or 3.5-hour drive. You have a 25-minute flight, and it's only $50. I mean, you deduct road snacks and gas out of that. All of a sudden,
So I'm down for that. Anything past that, I would really have to be hard up to do it, even if it was a price drop. If there's not a price drop, that's disgusting, and and everybody should feel ashamed for pitching it.
Yeah, they look like seats that are supposed to be movable and have already been folded up. They look like folding chairs. I don't know, it's bad. Ugh. Yeah.
Although I will say this, for some people, like when I had my back stuff, I would have almost opted for it when I had my back.
I mean, to be honest, I think it would feel. In fact, Bonnie nailed it. She said those look like the weird drafting chair that you sit on, and then
they kind of.
I kept myself from pointing out that it was her drafting chair that I stole. But like the drafting chair that I sit in right now forces you to sit up straight of your own recognizance.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lot like this design where there's a very small imprint for your butt print.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, I'll say this. This picture does it no justice because that back row seems like it's right next to it.
It really does.
Oh, gosh.
But meanwhile, it's like that's a comfortable amount. If you think about it as a bunch of people standing, imagine standing with enough room that everybody can hold an iPad in front of them. Like imagine you're in a line, but instead of standing the way you normally do, there's even more space because everybody has an iPad out in front of them.
I think that there's a place for it, but there has to be a price give back.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got to meet halfway.
Like, because I'm into it if there's a price give back. Yeah. I'm not if there's not.
Any other last thoughts? I think.
You know what? As long as we're talking about flying, I had one idea that I thought was really interesting.
Airplane thoughts.
So right now on a lot of flights, they sell off the most comfortable seats to first class, and they make that a special upgrade. Then they sell off at a premium the extra legroom spots. You know, including I don't know if they sell the exit row or not, but they're premium seats, and then all the rest of the seats are pretty much the same. Except for there's those in the front and those in the back. And it occurs to me like you could tell that they're trying to get people into rewards programs so that they get early boarding, which means they get off the plane earlier or they're more near the front or they have an increased likelihood of their bags making it or whatever. But that's all price based. And I had the thought, what do you think of this, Justin?
Yeah.
What if there was... Like, let's say United says, right now we rank number 6 in on-time departures. And we're going to fix this by creating a travel corps. And if you want to be in the travel corps, you will get always the frontmost seat available. You will always get the earliest arrival in there. And it will not cost you anything. The one thing you must do is pass a test, and every time you're on a flight that pushes ahead of time, you get credits. Every time your flight is delayed, you get demerits because you're part of the travel corps. Basically, get people to take ownership, because I've seen this with my family. I could tell the kids, all right, listen up. This movie's going to end, and we have to be first to get out of here. You guys on my team? What are you going to do? You're going to get right in your seat. You're going to buckle your sister, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. When everybody has a plan and everybody takes ownership of the experience, like we're ahead of everybody, right? It seems like there's some way to offer a benefit, like unlimited Wi-Fi, free drinks on a flight or whatever, stuff that would cost them virtually nothing, that I would be a diligent, 5-star travel corps member to help make happen if I got all those benefits. Like gamify,
as a means,
gamify loading and unloading, in other words.
So yeah, as a means of loading and unloading, you would get benefits for being better about it.
Yes, exactly. By being good. So every single member of this team, whatever this team is.
Here's the only thing, is that right now, the mood of passengers at an airport, right, is bad. It's a bad, uncomfortable experience where people feel their ego is depleted because they have to submit to all these security things. They feel out of control because they don't know when their flight's going to get in. And that, of course, leads to crappier customer service, because the only people that ever show up to a counter are not like, hey, I'm so excited. They're always like, why are you doing this? You're doing this thing to me personally. So leadership under those circumstances is hard, because what you would want, right, is for me and you, Brian, if you and I were traveling and we're part of travel corps, and we know that, man, we only need like 3 more credits before we get a free fleece.
Well, then imagine, because I see where you're heading. You're heading to a place where you're like, the last thing you want to do is blame the newbies or people who don't belong or whatever. So imagine a different version.
Then that becomes very haves and haves nots of like, I need to get off this plane. I got a stake in this.
Well, as long as we're brainstorming, just imagine that your ticket has an NFC chip or whatever, and it can actually tell you the amount of time it takes from the moment you walk on the plane to the moment you're seated in your seat. I don't know. There's pressure sensors in the seat. There's an NFC.
So it's just your personal time?
Yeah, sure. Or maybe you get a special wristband or whatever. Like you go for your personal best, and then it rewards you with all this stuff.
Oh, I'm in. Really, the only thing that I would get consistent demerits on is that I oftentimes throw my bag that could easily fit under the seat in the overhead compartment because I want leg room.
No, I've given up on that. I've never had that luxury, so I have like the maximum sized backpack that will barely wedge in on all flights.
Oh yeah, no. Every once in a while, because I'll be one of the first people in that aren't first class. Like I'll be in that like row 7 or row 8 on United, and so I'll usually get clean overhead space, and so I'll just toss the old backpack up there and then immediately go to sleep, so I can go to sleep with my legs out.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, that's After Things. Do you guys have any picks for After Things? Any After Things picks? I got something. I don't know.
What do you got first?
I mentioned this a lot on the show, and I had a moment with this over this past week that really like re-energized me in a very serious way. I mentioned that I finished all of the coursework for the Japanese Duolingo.
Right.
And the thing that frustrated me about Duolingo was that it was very it's a lot of flashcard based almost input, right? Like you pick the characters from a selected list and you piece sentences together, or you're typing in English. And I hit a point where I was like, okay, well, I've done that for everything. It's given me a handful of times where it actually lets me use the Japanese keyboard, so I don't know how much more there is for me in Duolingo. Well, I think it was yesterday actually, where Duolingo has now almost exclusively started giving me Japanese keyboard input lessons.
Oh, wow.
Where I have to use the keyboard and type out all the characters right and figure out the Japanese keyboard is a trip, man. If you're used to American or English,
Yeah.
it's kind of a trip because it's very like autocomplete and auto replace heavy.
Right.
So that has reinvigorated me because it's like, okay, now I kind of want to do this all again. This is really interactive, and it's a set of knowledge that I generally have already, and further like conditioning and further like reinforcing this information. I really dig that, and I don't know if this has anything to do with the new like revamp that they did for stuff, or if this has always been here and hidden. I don't know, but I think it's really cool for a thing that I thought I was almost done with.
Nice.
So yeah, that's Duolingo, and it's still free. It's still a free app. Like that's the thing about Duolingo. Whatever, free,
So
quote unquote free. But
this is not very helpful or useful, but we did rewatch it because of Cord Killers, and this audience may not know about it. If you haven't seen The Onion's Sex House, it is a wonderful satire of reality show television that definitely goes in a direction you will not expect. It is about an hour-long experience of...
it's like an hour and a half, maybe.
Yeah. Like what is it? 10, 11 episodes that are about 5 to 7 minutes each.
Yeah.
And it starts off looking as like a straight-up parody of reality stuff, but ends at a very strange, wonderful, surprising place. The one thing that I'm sad to report is you can see on the views on YouTube, the first episode has like 30 million views. The last episode has 2.5 million views.
Yeah.
And I'm so sad that so many people began the journey, got so far into it, and decided, oh, I know where this is going, and then stopped watching because, trust me, you do not know where it's going, and it's really, really great.
Even at the very end, it gives you one last like
It does. It gives you
great
one more
spin on
surprise.
it, and it's very good. And that's all on YouTube, right? So if you just
Yep.
look up Sex House, The Onion, they've got a whole playlist.
Yeah, make sure to
set up
put
for
The
it.
Onion before Sex House. Otherwise, I don't
Yeah.
know what you're going to
Or
get.
not. I'm not your dad. Justin, you got a pick?
Well, since we're talking about travel stuff, I will say I still use Hipmunk a lot. It's gotten a little crappier over the years, but it's still a standard I wish people would use more in terms of laying out flights on a grid. So you're not like scrolling down and just seeing random numbers. You can kind of see things on a grid, which I wish I would have used when I accidentally booked a flight for 9:30 in the evening instead of the morning when I wanted to go to Vegas. And so I had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and basically stand by onto a flight so I could get out
And
during
so,
the day like I wanted to.
Hipmunk, you said, does not have like a good presentation of different flights, or
No,
it does.
does.
Oh, it does. Okay.
I did not use it when I just went on United to book that flight, and I made a mistake that I will not make. Even if I'm only booking on United, I always want to use Hipmunk because Hipmunk will always show me, no, this is morning flight because it's on this side of the ledger. If it were on the other side, it would be at night.
How similar is it to? Because I see this as like a Google acquisition or a Google product. How similar is it to like Google Flights? Because I had a really good experience with that last year.
Wait, Google Flights is the thing?
Yeah, flights.google.com. And because they'll show you like
used that. No. That this is if you go to go to Hipmunk and type in a random possible flight, you'll see.
Yeah,
what
It's got a pretty good routine. I'll vouch for it. Ever since Justin told me about it 2 or 3 years ago, it's been, if I'm not flying Southwest, that's exactly where I look.
it's
So it's
taking a little
searching-
bit here to search everything.
Yeah, so it does. I mean, maybe that's a manufactured time delay or whatever, but
But basically, look, so you'll see, look, it starts
interesting.
at 3 a.m. and goes to 9 p.m. So it's like there's no confusing 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. because 9 a.m. is over on that
On the
side
left
and 9
side.
p.m. is over on that
Oh,
side.
I see. Huh.
and
That's
look at that. It
interesting.
also includes Amtrak trains.
Amtrak? And it'll show. Oh no, it just says that Southwest.
So yeah, they just get like
exists.
a referral for like, hey, remember Southwest? Click here and you can see Southwest times because
Yeah.
they only book on there. And also
Why are
everything.
these
Be-
$9,000?
because you selected Dallas Love Field, which is almost exclusively Southwest. Whereas if you had done DFW, or if you had typed in the word Dallas, it would have included all local airports.
well,
And so it all
yeah.
it all kicks back to the sites. So I think like they wind up getting referral kickbacks on stuff, but nothing books through Hitmonk. It just auto fills as if you had gone through their flight.
And then it sets you up over there, and then you realize, oh, I'm on the United site, or oh, I'm on Travelocity.com, or oh, yeah.
Well, then if I can piggyback, I recommend Google Flights also, especially if you're being price conscious and you have flexibility, because it'll give you this really cool grid of like, okay, I know you told us Wednesday to Sunday, but if you did Tuesday to Monday, that $500 flight will be $300.
That's really, really good, because that's something that isn't really good on Hitmonk and is also atrocious on literally every other website that for whatever reason is still sticking to this like card search result thing, which is just bad. And it is really an actual like it is a disgusting thing that nobody has ripped off some of these better UIs, because they really should.
And I'll say that the other thing is it has price tracking, so you can say, okay, I'm looking at this this flight or this listing. Email me every day whether it's going up or down, and you tell me when I should buy this. Which
Also, by the way,
in general seem to be okay.
I think I might be at the point where I might be winding down my exclusivity. I got a business card that does just travel mile things, so I would not be exclusive to United. And I'm pretty sure they gifted me gold status this year because I was under the mileage. So I guess like as a keep him happy because he was 1K for so many years gesture, they have bumped me up to gold, but I don't think that I would make it again this year. So it might be time to start. What I'm saying is I might be single. If not, I'm screwing around on United. I'm ready to be wooed.
Yeah.
It's funny how much you don't mind spending money on the little things when you know you're saving so much on the big things. Like for a long time, we've run everything on the scamstuff.com site through the Southwest Airlines card, which means I have a lot of miles, which the downside means that none of those miles count when I fly for free. So I have not been a frequent flyer for like 3 or 4 years now. But when you're flying for free, you don't mind $8 for Wi-Fi. That's fine.
Yeah.
$5 a drink. I could buy a whole bunch of those. It's fine. Everything's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was specifically with Southwest because like the Southwest and Virgin even, they've made the decision that they are going to protect low fares by kind of sacrificing some of that business class sort of clientele where like United, American, and Delta like break their backs to try and woo the regular like flying 3 times a week sort of person. So there's really not much that you were losing out on by not being like a status frequent flyer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for all that great flight/fear tips. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next week because it's been after.
Goddamn right.
Take Pleasure in the Garden, explicit, by Brian Brushwood and Justin
Take
Robert
pleasure
Young.
in the garden. That's amazing.
The Akaroa and Bays House and Garden Trip is held every 2 years.
Oh.
CL Forniari offers ideas for the types of flowers and foliage to plant,
I'd love to
but likewise the best ways to mix up some simple natural beverages to savor while sitting in the garden. Copyright 2018. Tudor Place Historic Home and Garden.
I wonder if something's up with the Twitch chat. I know there were some IRC issues.
Yeah, all of a sudden everybody
earlier.
left. Or everybody stopped talking.
Well, and I'm more concerned that like the chat thing that we posted didn't show up on our
Didn't show up,
screen.
yeah. Hey, everybody
interesting.
tweet me if you're not able to talk on the chat.
Yeah. I was going to say, let us know, but yeah, we wouldn't have been able to know.
Yeah. Say something in the chat.
But you got any more shows? You're not on DTNS today, Justin, but you got anything else today?
1-900 at 3 o'clock. So in an hour, I'll be back on twitch.tv/Justin R. Young talking wrestling with Willie Dills Gregory.
Awesome. And we'll have Court Killers in a couple hours with Twit news anchor Megan Marone.
Hey,
and Tom
that's
Merritt.
fun.
So that'll be a good show. I'm sure we'll be talking about the Infinitieth War.
War of Infinity.
Yeah. So keep an eye for that. Thank you guys. Bye.
Peace out.
So though the questions keep on coming this time,